G'day everyone, Prep Aussie here. I hope you're all well in whatever part of the world you're watching this video. Today is Saturday, the 17th of March 2018, and the time here is 08:30 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time. Folks, before I start, sorry, I won't. I'll go to the usual stuff. Hang on. This is my Patreon page. Please become a patron if you can. Every little bit helps. This is my PayPal account and name, prepaussie@gmail.com. Once again, any money is gratefully accepted, keeps me going, and it, builds up a fund for the fight towards getting the information for the Clinton Foundation donations by the Australian government. And last but not least, Slingbows Australia. Great stuff these guys are selling. Some states are illegal, I've been told, I've been informed, but you can actually order them through them. So please do so. Right. Lots to go through, folks. Lots to go through. Sorry. Okay, folks, a couple of things to go through before I start today. Look, the purpose of this, my doing this, is to hopefully enlighten more people, and the overall premise of what I'm doing is to hopefully not only wake people up, but to make sure that you're getting prepared for what's coming. Because look, it doesn't matter if it ends up being good or bad. There is no way out of the situation that we're going to go into, good or bad. Now, I'm not trying to give anybody, excuse me, massive anxiety, and I don't think anybody that was actually watching me do this or any of these other shows would suffer from anxiety. The reason I'm saying this was a couple of comments in the comment section as regards to, you're propagating drama and anxiety, etc., etc. Well, look, if it's coming across like that, I don't mean to. But my point out of all this is to actually just make sure that you are prepared for what's coming. And it is going to come, folks. They're running out of tricks up their sleeve to keep this going. And, that should be pretty obvious to anybody now. It's actually not, because people have still got their head up their arse, but never mind. There's people running around that just have no idea, absolutely no idea what's going on. That's fine. What I've always said is, if you actually are enlightened and prepared, stop talking to your family about it, because if you've tried and you tried and tried, they're not going to listen to you. They don't care. They're in their own little credit card bubble where, as long as they can put something on a credit card, their world's fine. My wife's exactly the same, by the way. So I don't talk to them about it, but I've made sure that every single member of my family is taken care of, prepared wise, so that when the shit does hit the fan, I can easily turn around and go, that's your bug out bag, or that's your dude, and that's your this, and that's your that. That is what's called being prepared. Being prepared doesn't mean just for yourself, folks. If you've got close friends and family, just keep buying stuff for them. Buy a backpack. Please, this drives me insane. You don't have to buy top of the range stuff to prepare for things, to be prepared. Go to Salvos, go to Vinnie's, Gumtree, Craigslist, all these places. I can buy tons of stuff on these things. All dirt cheap and all brand new, some of them. Don't go and buy things brand. If you can, great, go and buy it. But if you can't, use this thing called your brain and start going around Vinnie's, places like that, Gumtree. I've bought tons of stuff off Gumtree, and I mean tons of stuff. There's so many good sites out there that you can go to and get good quality, cheap stuff, but it's top of the range stuff. Like you can go into Vinnie's most places and you can find combat boots, army pants, everything, belts. Please don't write to me and say I can't afford the prep, because everybody can afford the prep. The problem is that you're not having lateral thinking along the lines of, well, if I've got no money, how am I going to get stuff? Well, you'd be surprised how much stuff you've already got, to be honest. You just got to look around, and ask friends and family. A lot of friends and family have got stuff they don't even need or want, and it's sitting there. Take it off them. Go and get it. It's that simple, really. Excuse me. But like I said, my whole premise for this show, is that I'm trying to enlighten you, and, don't forget, I'm doing this show for someone who might be watching this the first time. I know you guys have watched it before, but there might be someone you want to pass this to the first time. So let me talk to that person and say, if this is the first time you've watched this or anything like this, there's a shit fight coming and you need to be prepared for what's coming. It's going to be financial, it's going to be conflict, and there will be perhaps an occasion where you will have to hit the high road. Now, the second thing I want to talk to everyone about is community. Community is key for this, folks. Look, I've said this before. My dad always had a saying, if a man offers you his hand, then you shake it. But once you've shaken that man's hand, there's an understanding of trust. And anyone who goes back on that trust is to never be trusted again, and you shouldn't be really talking to them as a man because they've done the wrong thing. But my dad always said as well, if you offer your hand to a man and he doesn't take it, don't talk to that man. My dad was old fashioned, as you can probably understand. That's the way it's going to have to be, folks. You're going to turn away. I'll give you a classic example here. Are you going to turn away? So you do get a community going, or you get a group, you've got 10 people in your family and you've had the bug out, and you find a great place to stay and someone rocks up. But the majority of you are, Christian-minded people, whatever, Buddhists, I don't care, whatever you want to pick. And say a Muslim person, family, comes in and wants refuge, are you going to turn them away just because they're Muslims? And what would you do? What would you do if the man or the woman in that particular group was a doctor? Let that thing sink in a bit. Of course you're not. It's ridiculous. Are you going to turn someone away because they're black? Because they're white? Look, if you don't start taking the blinkers off, and expanding your mindset a bit, if you've got 10 Christians running at you with knives and stuff, yeah, well, I'm pretty sure you're going to, hack a few to pieces. 10 Muslims, 10 Buddhists, the story's the same. But I just don't see the next generation being corralled into a certain mindset, because it can't work. It doesn't work. I know Muslim people, and they're fantastic people. They've literally given me the shirt off their back. They're not terrorists. They're not ISIS. They're not Al Qaeda. I know loads of Buddhist people as well. But this is where it gets back to what I was saying before. You need to drop the dogma, the mainstream media news dogma, as regards to, corralling or penning people in as to what religion they are, what colour they are, all that crap. Because when the shit hits a fan, those morons that are like that are going to do exactly that. But people like us, who are a bit more enlightened, aren't going to do that. That's why it's important you get out of the city. You just go somewhere and you'll meet all the enlightened people out in the bush somewhere, hopefully. You know what I mean? I hope I've made my point on that. Okay, folks, one last thing. Defence. Defence for you, self, family, friends. It's very important that you learn how to do some sort of defence. Now, obviously in Australia, you can get guns if you want to go through the whole process. My point is with guns is, one, they're very heavy. I know that sounds stupid, but they are heavy to carry around. Plus, you've got to take all the ammunition with it. Now, if you're out in the bush and you've got a base, that's not too bad. But don't forget, you've got to get there. So you've got to carry all that equipment. My point about guns is that at some point, you will run out of ammunition. Then what are you going to do? Well, make sticks. Right. So my point is, think outside the box. This is my katana. And if you're going to buy one of these, buy a fully tanged katana, okay? And sharpened, i.e. here. Make sure it comes sharpened and fully tanged. What that means is that it's toughened. Okay, don't buy one that hasn't been, because it'll be useless to you. You'll hit something with it and it'll shatter to pieces. Okay, now my point is, you can actually pick one of these up for $100 on Gumtree. They're lightweight. They come with a bag or a scabbard, and you can actually put it on your back, and you can actually draw it, use it. Quiet, efficient. You ain't coming back from it, let me tell you that. Okay, so that's just one option. Hope that makes sense. Okay, just want to go through some stuff with you as regards to what's going on at the moment, which is all pretty interesting. Well, as you all know by now, this is the executive order that Trump signed in December the 21st. Now, ever since that day, and I think a lot of people forget this, ever since that day, he's had the full might of the US Army military, behind him. That includes all electronics, surveillance, etc. So basically, 4 months ago, or since 4 months ago, Trump has been using all surveillance opportunities open to him. Now he's just cruised along, blah, 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 blah. Been listening into conversations, etc., I'm guessing. Tidbits have been coming back to him. But then something changed, folks. And I'm going to show you something. There's not many people pick this up. This is Rexy boy arriving in Kenya. Now, why is this relevant? Well, let me go down here a bit. Did everybody understand what happened here? This was not a state visit to Kenya by Rex Tillerson. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago, Q said Obama will try to get citizenship in Kenya? And then all of a sudden, Rex Tillerson goes to Kenya. And we all thought that Rex Tillerson had gone to Kenya to maybe thwart, is that the word? This process from happening. So what if Rex Tillerson went to Kenya of his own volition for Obama? That's a mind warp, isn't it? What if Rex Tillerson went to Kenya on his own volition for Obama? Now, the reason I'm saying that is because Q, on the Qs that I read to you last week, he definitely said when this is all finished, he's going to try to get citizenship in Kenya. So don't forget, Donald Trump's got the executive order. He's got all the surveillance. He knows what everybody's now doing. He's listening in. And these people, as Q says, are stupid. One other thing that everybody missed. Guess what date it was he went there? March 9th. Guess what day Trump sacked him? March 11th. Now, folks, here's all the interesting stuff on YouTube about Tillerson's firing. But the amazing thing here was that while we were all looking at March the 11th to be the day that all the indictments were open, it wasn't. What it actually was the day that President Trump told the world that he's in charge. Do you understand that? We all thought that he was going to do open indictments, and there was going to be thousands of people going to jail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it wasn't. March the 11th is the day that the President of the United States stood up and became the President of the United States. Now, before this week's out, this weekend, next week, there'll be a lot of other people that are going to be going down the same road as Tillerson, I can guarantee you. Then, when Trump feels secure in his own group of people and he is in charge, then we're going to start watching the shit hit the fan. And while we're talking about that, There's a big game of brinksmanship going on here between the elites and Trump, if you haven't already figured it out, as regards to the financial world. The elites can drop the stock market anytime they want, and they did, 666 if you remember. That's not a coincidence. But then it went back up again. Now, I would imagine that the game of chess that's being played between the two of them at the moment is Trump saying, the elite saying, sorry, we're going to crash the stock market on you. And he's going, no, you're not, because I'm going to foreclose on you. Meaning that he's just going to go, we're not paying the debt back, we're insolvent, you all lose a shitload of money. Now remember, since 2007-8, moving forward to now, there has been a massive wealth transfer to the elites because they know that this day is coming. This day is coming. It's coming. Somebody, somewhere, and it's already happened in Venezuela, it's happening now in Argentina again, several emerging economies, Costa Rica, have gone broke. So what if Trump just has a national news conference and just says, folks, look, I tried my hardest. I thought I could get this money back. You know, it's just the debt's too big. We can't pay it back. I'm declaring bankruptcy as of now. But don't panic, because we're just going to have a debt jubilee and all the debts are wiped out. And tomorrow we start from scratch again. It's not too unfeasible, folks. Do you imagine what happens to the elites when that happens? They automatically lose all control over everything in one instance because everything's gone. They no longer have the holding power of debt over everyone. So that power thing that they've got to hold, they've got over everyone, if Trump goes, debt jubilee, all the debts are back to zero. So there's a big game of brinksmanship going on there, folks. Big game of brinksmanship. One thing that I want everyone to think about as well is the nerve agent, or the supposed Russian spy agency using a supposed Russian nerve agent. Now, folks, you'd have to be brain dead in a sack to think that that was the truth. Now, let's get this straight. Put the pieces together here. This Russian spy, right, that was living in the UK, had already been in jail in Russia. He got a pardon. There was a spy swap between Russia and the UK. They swapped him over, right? He's been in the UK for a couple of years. He divulged all his information beforehand because he was a double agent. Now, why the hell would Russia, years after the event, go and use a nerve agent on some bloke and his daughter in a park when you could use 2 bullets for 25 cents? Come on. Is everyone that friggin' brain dead? People believe this shit, by the way. People actually sit there and go, wow, really? Wow, Russia's really evil. Not realising there has not been, by the way, they don't tell you that this guy had been in prison in Russia. I think it was for 5 years. Why didn't they kill him then? They could have tortured him, killed him, thrown him in the bloody Moscow River, never to be seen again. Or drag him up to Siberia, never see him again. But no, they put him in prison for 5 years. Then they did a prisoner swap with the UK. And he's been in the UK for years. So why the hell would Russia go over with one of their own nerve agents, which fingers them directly, by the way? It's just bullshit. It's bullshit, folks. Please tell everyone you know. It's bullshit. You can actually look into it. It doesn't take much. Russia had nothing to do with this. Nothing. The CIA did, and the UK government, and a couple of other nefarious shitbags running around, but Russia didn't. Why would Russia kill someone they had in their own prison for a few years? And why would they use a nerve agent when they can easily go into his house and strangle him like they did the other bloke that, shit on him? That's what they would do. Small caliber, double tap to the head, gone. See you later. Thanks very much. That's how it's done. You don't put a nerve agent on someone. Duh. Just bizarre. It's just bizarre, folks. These guys think we are that bloody stupid. This story here is actually pretty important. Like them, love them or hate them, Britain First has been banned from Facebook after pressure from European leaders. This is not a terrorist organisation, folks. This is just a bunch of people who got together and have said, and by the way, before anyone rattles off any bullshit to me about this group, because I know it pretty well, I'm not a member or anything, not a card-carrying member, but why they're pissed off with this group is because they have people from all walks of life in this group, i.e. black, white, Muslims, Chinese. The actual idea of this group is Britain First, which means actually British first. Because you guys don't know this, but I lived there for, I might have told you before, I lived there for 20 years. And I watched, under Tony Blair, I watched the UK go to the S bend of Europe in the space of 5 years. The beautiful British ideal was completely stripped in 5 years, to the point where I didn't even recognise it anymore, and I'd been living there for a good while. And I thought, I'm not bringing my kids up here because this is actually going to turn to violence very soon. It was that bad. There's been a lot of things that the government in the UK have been doing to make it even worse, like giving homes to immigrants and, just pissing people off. There's areas up in north of England where you just don't go to now. And that's a fact. Did you know that the East End of London, Whitechapel Road, has the biggest mosque in Europe on it, and it's literally 3 k's from the House of Parliament? That's a fact, folks. And try finding any white people, by that I mean English, any English people in Whitechapel. Now, your idea, if you know Whitechapel is where, the murders took place, etc. That no longer exists, folks. It's like little Baghdad, or little Somalia, or little Afghan, or it's completely overrun. So much so that they won't even allow the schools to be named after English people anymore. That's a fact. Of course, there's still, English white people that live there, but it's basically been overrun, and it's 3 k's from the Houses of Parliament. Sounds shocking, doesn't it? But it's actually true. So this movement is actually aimed at the government, not so much the people of England or the UK. But the immigration has become such a problem that you now have mass illegal immigration, mass draining of the coffers of the UK government through the NHS, no pension funds, all this, it's coming, folks. And I can't pick whether it's going to be France or the UK, which kicks off, well, Italy, France, or the UK that kicks off first. Sadly, it's going to happen. And that's why I left, because you could see the writing was on the wall. It sounds horrible to say, doesn't it? But it's actually true, folks. You can go there yourself, or you can actually look it up on the internet. The mosque is there and Houses of Parliament at 3 k's down the road. It's true. People don't believe it. The biggest mosque in the UK, in Europe, is 3 k's from the Houses of Parliament. In 5 years, they lost their country in 5 years. In 10 years, when I was there, it was just unbelievable. I didn't recognise it anymore. From 95 to 2005, like I said, it just turned in London specifically and Birmingham, turned into the shit bend of Europe. That's what they're trying to do to us. Silence us by the masses, the illegal masses. This is a story for Australians more than anyone. And this should piss every Australian off. Did you know that Exxon is now not going to pay any corporate tax at all? Zip, nada, nothing, not 1 cent. Not 1 cent. But don't worry, they're giving us jobs, so that's okay. This is a sort of shit that's got to stop. And I can't even believe that our government is actually letting this go on. Oh, no, I can believe it, actually. I can believe it. Here's another big world event that's coming. And if you know anything about South Africa, Mandela was a peacemaker. That's been proven. But any white person who lives in South Africa can tell you that it's been a very tense few years. And now the ANC has shown their hand, and now they're going to throw the white farmers off the land like they did in Zimbabwe. There's nothing anybody can do about this. It's going to happen. But the thing is that I don't know how far you guys remember back in wars and that, but there was a little thing called the Boer War, or the Boer War. And there was a bunch of Dutchmen running around on horses that really gave the English a fright for their lives. Well, those guys no longer have horses. They've got bloody great big tanks and shit, and armoured personnel carriers and machine guns. They're not going to go without a fight. It's going to turn into mayhem. And to his credit, this guy here said we should let them in. We should, people need help from a civilized country like ours. But apparently that was racist. These guys, these South Africans, are going to, it's going to literally rip into mayhem real quick. And of course, you've got this dickhead here sorry, Richard Cranium, this guy here, the bloke is a racist. Richard Di Natale, you, my friend, are an absolute tool. Shut up. Just shut up. You're an absolute fool, mate. These people prefer to see white farmers cut to pieces by black people for no other reason than the fact that they want to. But that's okay. But we can't say the immigration department fellow, this guy here, Peter Dutton, can't say to people, well, a civilized country like ours should offer these people refuge. Because guess what? They're white and they're being persecuted. You tool, Di Natale. These people piss me off. And of course, they throw out the Cecil Rhodes picture of the absolute racist, uber racist. Grow up. Makes me sick to my stomach, this shit. Well, folks, thankfully, common sense has prevailed a little bit. And this Peter Dutton's words are gaining momentum, and it looks like we are going to help a lot of these guys out, and they're going to be brought to Australia before they get chopped to pieces by Zulu tribesmen with no brains. It's just ridiculous. And sadly, that's going to be the end of South Africa as the country that everybody knew it. Or it'll be torn into 2 or 3 parts with continuing civil war. But be under no illusion, it is going to happen, because this Prime Minister of the President of South Africa has now said he's going to take the white farmers' lands. And if you know what happened in Zimbabwe, they beat them up, they chopped them to pieces, they raped the women, they did everything. It was just disgusting. And no one came to help them. Well, this time someone's actually standing up and say, well, we're going to come to your aid. And apparently we're racist because we said that. Di Natale, you are a dickhead. An absolute class A fool, and so are you. What's his bloody name? I can't remember his name. The tool, Labor tool, the leader. I can't remember his name. He's so irrelevant. I can't remember his bloody name. He's so irrelevant. It's it's just ridiculous. Fat little munchkin. And folks, as always, verse of the day, put on therefore, or actually I should say, folks, as always, the verse of the day, but in these weird crap times we're living in, where everyone's trying to make everyone turn against each other, here's the verse of the day. Put on therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long-suffering. Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? It's a pity these bloody politicians don't read these every day and start getting back to basics. Hypocrites. And finally, but not lastly, folks, the Lord's Prayer. Our prayer to God. Our Father, God, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Folks, I've said enough. God bless. Prep out.